America's only Irish station, radioirish.com. That's what you're listening to. Sean McCarthy here. Now, Stony Island Avenue, which runs from 56th to the Calumet River, is a Southside Chicago landmark. Steeped in rhythm and blues and jazz tradition, Stony Island is where Muddy Waters first settled after leaving Mississippi. The movie, Stony Island, shot in 1977 and now available on DVD, celebrates Chicago's rich music legacy and revolves around a group of rhythm and blues performers and how they are affected by a veteran bluesman, character Percy Price, played by legendary saxophonist and Grammy-winning composer Gene Daddy G. Barge. A galaxy of music and film characters appear in Stony Island, some of which were already established, and others who were yet to be world famous when the film Stony Island was shot in 1977. Chicago saxophone legend Gene Barge is joined by Ray Dong Chong, Dennis Franz, and the late great jazz poet Oscar Brown Jr., chess session guitarist Phil Upchurch, and future Bangles star SUSANNA Hoffs, who plays farm girl Lucy. Indeed, there's an interesting story about how SUSANNA Hoffs kick-started her singing career from her initial appearance in Stony Island, which we'll get to later when we speak to Susanna's mother, film director Tamar Hoffs, who wrote and produced Stony Island, with Chicago native Andrew Davis, who directed the film. Shot on the gritty streets of Chicago's South Side, Stony Island tells the story of Richie Bloom, played by Richie Davis, the only white kid on the block, as he forms an R&B band with his best friend Kevin, played by Edward Stoney Robinson. With the help of their mentor, aging sax legend Percy Price, played by Gene Daddy G. Barge, they pulled together a funky supergroup, stealing practice time at night in the local funeral home. Despite few resources and heavy losses, the resilient group of dedicated musicians, armed only with wit, sleight of hand, and outrageous Chicago bravado, come together to make their smash debut. Stony Island is driven by the music, with a score crafted by David Matthews, who started his career as the bandleader for James Brown and went on to work with Simon and Garfunkel, Julian Lennon, Robert Plant, Paul McCartney, Frank Sinatra, Billy Joel, and many others. Ronnie Barron, who passed away in 1997, was a legendary New Orleans musician and protege of Little Richard, who recorded with Dr. John, Ry Cooder, The Animals, Louis Prima, Paul Butterfield, and Tom Waits, just to mention a few. The multi-Grammy-winning saxophonist David Sanborn plays alto sax on the score, and Andrew Davis's college classmate, Tomlinson Holman, who went on to invent and codify the THX standard for audio quality, was instrumental in recording the soundtrack for the film. Stony Island is the ultimate gritty Chicago music film, bringing us back in time when people of all races, creeds and colours were coming together to celebrate the universal language of music. Stony Island captures the very essence of what it is to be American. I spoke to Stony Island co-writer Tamar Hoffs.
Live from New York City, radioirish.com.
Radio Irish.
So tell me about writing Stony Island, Tammy, with Andrew Davis. How did Stony Island come about?
Andy Davis and I met each other when we were working on the film Lepke, a genre film about a gangster who was the head of Murder Incorporated in New York. And I was a writer on that movie, and Andy was the cinematographer. And we took one look at each other and we go, "Hey, buddy, you're from Hyde Park." And he says to me, "Yeah, my God, you're from Hyde Park too." We had both grown up on the same street in Chicago. And we couldn't believe that that could happen by accident. We figured some miracle was about to happen, and we looked at each other and we said, "Why are we doing a gangster film? Let's go back to our hometown and make a movie about the great Chicago music world, which we both had been a part of. But of course we had to get through the first movie, which was Lepke, and it turned out to be a big success, and we both felt very confident, and we made our wish come true. And soon after that we began writing the script for Stony Island. Stony Island Avenue is Mecca for blues music clubs, and everybody who comes up from the South ends up on Stony Island if they're a good musician, especially if they are people of color. And the greatness of that is that if you're a kid and grow up in that area, you are watching a tremendous change as years go by from what was a considerably white neighborhood that became a black neighborhood, but in the most amazing way, because the music never changed. The music of Stony Island was always the great, great magnet of the south side of Chicago. And that's where this story begins. This is the story of a young band, bunch of black kids and one white kid, all equal, all pals. They're rehearsing every night in the mortuary in the neighborhood because everybody's dead, so nobody can say, "Shut up, too much noise." And they had a great time. They would, only have to leave the rehearsal hall if a dead body was coming in. We knew that this was a great idea, and we got it because it was reality. And that's what kids do in Stony Island. They don't drive around in big cars with their instruments. They go over to the mortuary. So we had this wonderful idea for how this young band would get their first gig. And that became the through line of our movie.
Now, your daughter Susanna has said that her actual participation in the movie as a character in Stony Island brought her to think of music for the rest of her career.
Well, that's a pretty funny story, actually, because Andy and I were using friends and family for every possible position in this movie since we didn't have any money to speak of. And so his brother was the white kid in the band, and my daughter was the sort of romantic girl from the country who he was crazy about. And both of these kids were very young. Richie was 18 years old. He was just starting college, and he decided to take off a semester to do the movie. And Susanna was 17, and she was just about to start college. And I called her up and said, "Hey, hold off a little bit and come to Chicago and be in the movie." So that was how those two kids came to be in Chicago to be in a movie about music. But Susanna did not have a musical future ahead of her. She was in the dance department, and during the movie every song was written right there on the set with the young musicians that were real musicians as well as real characters in our movie. And Susanna wrote one great song, and she wrote more than one song, but one song was especially great, and it was a song that she probably secretly wanted to sing, but we didn't know she was a singer. She'd never been singing yet. And so we brought in a professional singer to sing the words, and we now believe that because we didn't let her sing her own song, she decided to say to us, "Hey guys, look what you were missing. I'm going to be a singer no matter what." So it's kind of our joke about how Susanna became a singer, was that we didn't let her sing in Stony Island.
That's amazing. Now, what is it about Stony Island that makes it so relevant today, Tammy?
Well, I think everybody is equal, and everybody is entitled to have their dreams come true. So for Andy and I, who came from a neighborhood that was every color all mixed together in a beautiful rainbow where there was very little antagonism between races, it seemed like an honest and straightforward movie when we shot the movie. It didn't occur to us that realistically the world wasn't ready for a movie that had black and white kids in virtually every frame of the movie. And that caused an enormous problem for the distributors of the movie. They couldn't figure out if it should be a white movie or a black movie, but what they knew was that the exhibitors of movies would not want a movie that was, quote, black in their white theater, or vice versa. If it was a white movie, the black kids wouldn't be interested. So for a very brief period, they decided to turn it into a kind of a edgy black genre film. And of course it wasn't that. It was just a movie about kids and music, and it pretty much died right away. So today, the world is a different place. We honor all races, and if we don't honor them, we should honor them, and we want to honor them. And it is an era where our president is a man of color, and he's not called a man of color, he's called the President of the United States. And our band, the Stony Island Band, is a band about how people interact, and they're linked with their dreams and their music and their love of each other ahead of all else. And so right now this movie is it's so necessary that we show a movie like this now. It's so relevant to this time and place in America, where there's still the edges of what used to be, the things that we should be very embarrassed even existed in a country where people came for freedom. But that was truly what went on in this country years ago, and I think we're a little bit closer to our goal. And as we have shown the movie now a few times in special screenings with incredibly positive results and enthusiastic audiences who cheer at the end, and they all say to us, what happened? Why didn't this movie show? Why isn't this movie, very special? And it's because people forget so quickly how things were compared to what they are now. We're in the perfect place to show a movie like this because it really embraces what we have done in this country in the last 35 years.
Live from New York City, RadioIrish.com.
Radio Irish.
Get ready for the Stony Island Band. Yeah, when the band begins to play the music for your soul, yeah, makes you want to get up